Have you ever had a situation where somebody recruited you into something, or they asked you to do something, or maybe you signed up for something, and then you get there and realize that it was all more than you expected? Welcome to church work. No, I mean, really, have you ever had this moment where it felt like a bait and switch, like you didn't know everything that was required in the beginning, and maybe if you did, it might have changed your answer? A few months ago, back when the weather was warmer and more amicable, I have a Sunday morning routine. I like to get done preaching my services. I go home, I eat a quick bite to eat, and then I find my easy chair, stretch out, and sleep through whatever game happens to be on TV. That is my plan. And imagine my surprise then, a few months ago, when I get out of worship and I'm headed out the door to leave, to go home. Lunch and my easy chair are on my mind, and my van pulls in the parking lot, and my wife rolls down the window and says, "Get in, we're going for a hike." Oh, good, a hike. So we decided to go to Rockbridge. The kids apparently needed to burn off some energy, and so we load the kids in the van, and we're headed to Rockbridge. We're going to go for a walk, and we're going to have a good time. And I had kind of been paying attention to what we were doing and kind of not, and we didn't really know, and we had talked a little bit about like Devil's Icebox and some of the caves that were there and all of the things on the way in. We quickly picked a trail. We set off and we started walking. And about halfway in, we realized that we were on a trail that was a little longer than we bargained for. And one of us in particular was really on the struggle bus. I happened to take a video of it. Let's take a look.
Are you just going to stay there, or are you going to keep going?
I don't like this at all.
What don't you like?
It's tiring.
It's tiring.
Yeah.
What else?
We want to go to Ice Cube.
There's no such place as Ice Cube. It's called Icebox, and it's another 35-minute walk. And you didn't even like the last walk. You want to go to the right and do that loop again?
No. Yeah. Just for the fun of it. Just to hear from wine is so.
So as you can see, that was my daughter. She was not thrilled that we were walking. We had been walking a while at that point, and she was upset that she was not going to go to Ice Cube, which we later figured out meant Devil's Icebox, as she was frustrated. I think my guess is that if we had pulled in the parking lot and looked at Spencer and said, we're going to go on a hike that's going to get longer and longer than we think it's going to be, and we're not going to be able to see the things we promised, and it's all going to be really like uphill and steep and kind of chaotic. Do you want to go? My guess is she'd have said, no, I'm good. I'll wait right here. You all have a blast. Sounds like fun for you. I'm out, right? If she had known everything involved in the beginning, if she had known everything that was coming, she probably would have bowed out. It would have changed her decision. Sometimes when we work with the church or when we work in life, it can feel that way, right? A bait and switch situation, a situation where it feels like maybe everything wasn't fully disclosed up at the beginning. But that's not the way it works with Jesus. Jesus believes in full disclosure. He never hides the fine print of discipleship. In fact, in today's passage that we're going to read, he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He says exactly what's going to happen if we continue to follow the life he lays before us. And what he's really going to tell us is that there will be moments that it is hard, that following Jesus is difficult, that there will be moments when our discipleship will ask us to do things that feel incredibly challenging and uncomfortable and maybe even are physically and emotionally taxing, but he says it is worth it. Now, that's a little different than what we normally get sold in places. We get sold the idea of being comfortable. We get sold the idea of something relaxing. We get sold the idea that what we're supposed to do is get everything we want right now, right? Fast food, fast Wi-Fi, fast faith. We want things comfortable and quickly. There's entire movements of churches based on everything feeling comfortable and quick, getting exactly what we want. In fact, sometimes the modern church will often call us to comfort as opposed to calling. They will bring us to this place of comfort and tell us that we're all supposed to be okay and it's all fine and whatever, as opposed to being called into something more powerful, to be called into something more sustaining, even if it is uncomfortable. What we really want is something that is soothing. But what Jesus offers is something that stretches us, that grows us. Jesus offers us something better than what the world offers, something better than the comfort the world offers, something better than the sustained, than the sameness that the world offers. Jesus offers truth. A truth that strengthens us, a truth that calls us forward, a truth that makes us better than we ever thought possible, but a truth that is often uncomfortable. And Jesus didn't hide this truth in the beginning. He didn't hide the uncomfortableness of it. He never lied to his followers. He told them what's going to happen, and he invited us to participate in it anyway. We're going to be in the Gospel of Luke this morning, chapter 21, and as we read this passage, I want you to be asking, what is the thing that Jesus is calling you to? What is the uncomfortable places Jesus is calling you to? Now, in this passage, the disciples are admiring the beauty of the temple, and the temple at the time is one of the most profound structures of its day, and it is stunning, especially for the Jewish people because of all that it represents. But Jesus redirects their eyes from stones that will eventually crumble to the kingdom that endures regardless. We're going to be in Luke chapter 21. We're going to start in verse 5. We're going to read all the way to 19. We'll read a little and talk a little, and we'll kind of pick it up. Okay. Starting in verse 5. Some of his disciples were remarking about how the temple was adorned and how beautiful the stones were with gifts dedicated to God. But Jesus said, "As for what you see, the time will come when not one stone will be left on another, for every one of them will be thrown down." "Teacher," they asked, "when will these things happen? And what will be the sign that they are about to take place?" So the disciples are looking at the temple's beauty. They're looking at all of the things to come. They're excited about it, and Jesus warns them that is temporary, that the beauty will fade, that there will come a moment when it's all going to come down, that even the good things of our lives, even the great things of our lives, religion and institutions and traditions and comforting things, they can become idols if we begin to put our trust in those things as opposed to our trust in the living God. We can actually turn good things even into an idol. Now, often in the church, we talk about idolatry, about bad things. We talk about idolatry as a gluttony issue, or idolatry as an addiction issue, or idolatry as a paganism issue, or what have you, right? But in reality, more often than not, as a pastor, what I actually see is I see people taking good things and making them idols. We worship at the altar of happiness. We worship at the altar of comfort. We worship at the altar of relationships, our marriages or our children. We worship at the altar of all kinds of things, and we begin to put our trust and our security and even our future in the hands of those idols. But Jesus here is reminding us that rarely are the things that seem permanent actually permanent. Now, we know this in our modern society because if 2 decades ago, someone had come to you and said, hey, there would be a moment when they would shut down schools and kids wouldn't be allowed to go to school, you would say, that is ridiculous. Why would they do that? That would never happen. There's no way. Kids will go to school. It's school. But standing here now, we know there was a time in the not too distant past where we did that. We know that there are things that used to feel permanent that aren't. Picking up in verse 8, he replied, so he's answering their question about when will this happen and what are the signs. Jesus replies, watch out that you are not deceived, for many will come in my name, claiming I am he, and the time is near. Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and uprisings, do not be frightened. These things must happen first, but the end will not come right away. Then he said to them, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be a great there will be great earthquakes and famines and pestilence in variety of places and fearful events and great signs from heaven. Jesus starts by saying, don't be led astray. Don't lose sight of the things I teach you. Don't lose sight of the essential things. Don't be afraid. Don't be terrified. The world's going to shake. False prophets will happen. Political wars and discontent will happen. All of these things will happen. But Jesus tells us that our job is not to panic. That when life falls apart, not to panic. When things that feel firm start to fall apart, not to panic, but to put faith and our trust in the one that endures. Faith doesn't mean that we get to avoid the chaos. Faith means we're not defined by it. We live in a society where we are defined by the chaos. We define each other by how we feel about certain issues. We define our culture by how we feel about certain things. And if you don't believe me, you're getting ready to go to Thanksgiving eventually, or here pretty quick with family, and they will attempt to define you by all kinds of things. Everybody's got at least one of them cousins. But faith tells us that we're not defined by chaos. That we are defined through the eyes of our Heavenly Father who sees us and knows us. That we are not defined by that. We are defined by something greater. Picking up in verse 12. But before all this, they will seize you and they will persecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and they will put you in prison and you will be brought before kings and governors, all on account of my name. And so you will bear testimony to me and make up your mind. Do not worry beforehand about how you will defend yourselves, for I will give you words and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to resist or contradict. You will be berated even by parents or brothers and sisters, by relatives and friends. They will put some of you to death. Everyone will hate you because of me. Not a hair on your head will perish. Stand firm, and you will win life. And so all of these terrible things are going to happen. And Jesus doesn't offer us an exit. Jesus doesn't offer us escape from the discomfort that comes with following him. Jesus offers us endurance. By your endurance, you will gain your souls, he says. The Greek here speaks about a steadfast perseverance, a faith that holds under pressure, that sustains the weight of what comes. But Jesus doesn't promise safety or comfort. He promises to give words and wisdom. Jesus reminds us that the path of the cross is costly, but it is the only path that leads to resurrection. I recently had the privilege of listening to another pastor speak about the role of discipleship and what our job as the church is as the church is. And our job is to take folks from a come and see mentality, right? We invite them to church. Come and see Jesus. Come and see this thing that has happened. Come and see all that God has to offer. And we move them to a place where we ask them, come and die. Come and die to your own pride and to your own ego. Come and die to all of the things you wish you could have, or the things that you put in your life between God. Come and be dead to all of those things so that you may rise again in the resurrection of Jesus. And I got to tell you, that's a tough sell. It is really easy to sell comfort. It is really easy to sell luxury. It is really easy to sell everything is going to be great and wonderful. In fact, we have entire church movements that are based on this idea that if you tithe enough or give enough or be present enough, that you will have all the comforts and luxury that this life can offer. And yet, I have read this book cover to cover. And I have never heard Jesus say, "Blessed are the comfortable, for they shall have air conditioning and soft couches." Instead, he says, "Blessed are the merciful and the meek. And blessed are you when they persecute you." We are called to be people who live out our faith among others. The founder of the Methodist movement, John Wesley, said that there is no holiness but social holiness, meaning that our faith is meant to be lived out in the streets with people, to see them and to know them, and to often to resist the values of this world. That true discipleship is public, it is persistent, and it is patient, and it shows up in the face of the real chaos. Not to be defined by it, but to live and endure through it. We took our children on that hike, and I got to tell you, I've got this really crummy knee. In fact, I've had trouble with this knee for a while. I've had a couple of surgeries on this thing and that kind of thing, and I've had lots of difficulties with it. I was on a call with some pastors this last week, and one of them was talking about how they had lifted 1,500 pounds, and they were going for 1,500 and a couple of lifting exercises and whatever, and all the things. And I just replied, "Well, I did 5 leg lifts today." It's like the same thing, right? But whether you're rehabbing a knee, or whether you're running a marathon, or whether you're lifting weights, you don't stop the moment that it gets difficult. You don't stop the moment that it gets uncomfortable. You don't stop the moment that you start to feel resistance. You persevere. And so, when we live out a life where Jesus is leading us, we shouldn't be shocked then when there is resistance. We shouldn't be shocked then when people look at us like we're doing something different. In fact, if the devil's not trying to get in your way, ask yourself if you're headed in a direction he's happy with. We should lean into the resistance. We should lean into the difficulty because Jesus calls us to that. That to meet resistance is not failure, it is faithfulness. And more often than not, what slows us down is we confuse hardship with abandonment. We assume because it is difficult that God has abandoned us and left us alone. The story of the church is full of people who realized that in the darkest and the hardest parts of their lives is when they felt God the closest. Jesus tells his disciples that some of them will be put to death. He's right. 11 of them are martyred for their faith. And the 12th? Well, okay, you got Judas in there. So 10 of the 11 are martyred for their faith. And the 12th, the last one, you take out Judas, the last one is John, and he survives being boiled in oil, so they send him to an island. There's a rich history of endurance here. of leaning into the words and the wisdom that Jesus promises, of knowing that God still speaks even through us. And I'm not asking you to go be boiled in oil. I'm asking you to walk across the street and invite your neighbor to church. I'm asking you to show up in the lives of someone else, like we have this last week with a family that has been stricken with tragedy. I'm asking you to continue over and over and over again to step out in faith, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it leads to places you're not supposed you're not sure you want to go, even when it leads to places you're not sure that you can endure. I'm asking you to lean into the words of Jesus that promises that in the hardship we find the cross. And that the measure of success of the world is how many comforts and luxuries you can acquire, but the measure of success in our faith is faithfulness and perseverance in the face of all of the chaos that surrounds us. And so what if the struggle that you're facing right now, the real hurt that you're facing right now, what if that real struggle is not a sign that you're doing something wrong, but a sign that you are doing something right, and that you are walking the path Jesus lays before you? You're walking the road that Jesus has carved out for you. You're walking the path of sanctification and salvation. What if the hardship you're facing becomes the moment in your story when you hear God the loudest and feel Him the most? We've been speaking about the end of the world as we know it. And it's the end of the world that we know, not the end of God's world. The story isn't finished. Christ is still with us in the middle, in the uncomfortableness, and faithfulness prepares us now for the joy we will experience later. Faithfulness reminds us that by our endurance, we regain the salvation of our souls. It is in perseverance, in the face of hardship, we find the true life that Jesus offers. That's why community matters so much. That's why it matters that you show up on a Sunday morning, because in the face of your hardship, the words of the person next to you may be the encouragement that you need, maybe the thing that fills you with God's courage to keep you moving forward. It may be the prayer of someone else that gives you words when you have none, or that gives you strength and hope when it all feels lost and bleak. It is the light of the candle that chases back the darkness. And so I don't pretend to know what hardship you're facing or the story that you are on, but I do know that in community we find hope and peace, and in Jesus there is sustenance and sustaining life. And so lean in and persevere and know that you don't walk this road alone. Let us pray. Holy God, we give you thanks that in the face of the chaos and the hurt, in the face of the things that go bump in the night, in the face of all of the things, that we are not defined by the world, but we are defined by you. That you call us yours and you call us more. And so, Lord, I would just pray that you would encourage everyone here, that whatever hardships they face, and we know that everyone's life faces hardship. It's not a competition. That whatever hardships they face, that you would remind them of your presence. That you would draw them closer so that they may persevere. They may continue to walk the path you lay before them. And that you would draw the community that they need closer to them, that they may continue to endure with courage. Hallelujah and amen.